Hello everyone. Topic for this presentation is wines of Portugal. In this presentation, we'll see different regions of Portugal which are known for winemaking. What is the most famous fortified wine, port, how it is made, and different styles of port. A port wine is a very popular fortified wine. Port wine is typically richer, sweeter, heavier, and possess a higher alcohol content than most other wines. This is caused by the addition of distilled grape spirit to fortify the wine and halt fermentation before all the sugar is converted to alcohol. It is commonly served after meals as a dessert wine, often with cheese. White and tawny ports are often served as aperitif. It has alcohol content of roughly 20%. Wine with less than 16% alcohol or ethanol cannot protect itself against spoilage if exposed to air. With an alcohol content of 18% or higher, port wine can safely be stored in wooden casks that breathe, thereby permitting the fine aging of port wine. Major wine regions of Portugal. Wines of mountain, ideally from Minho, Douro or Douro region. Douro is a very famous region. Wines of plains. This is the southeast region. Wines of oceans. Area near the Lisbon. Minho, red wine from here are very sharp and the whites are soft to taste. Both varieties are exported. Douro, reds from Douro are more famous. These reds are smooth, velvety, and very popular internationally. Douro, most famous region of Portugal, exports large amounts of wines. An internationally famous rosé wine is Matus Rosé, which comes in green flask bottle. Douro primarily produces port. However, only about 40% of the grapes harvested from here are made into port. The rest grapes are used for making table wine. Making of port. Well, port is made with specific grape varieties that grow in Douro River Valley in northern Portugal. A wine is called port only when the grapes are grown in Douro region. Wines are fortified at the time of vintage and it has been shipped from Douro region. The process involves the grapes are first picked, are placed in granite stone. They are crushed by feet until grapes are sufficiently prepared for fermentation. Must is allowed to ferment. As soon as alcohol level is 7%, brandy is added. This stops the further fermentation. The Instituto do Vinho do Porto tastes the wine and selects the wine and grades the wine. Some styles of port. The first is a ruby port. Ruby port is the cheapest and most extensively produced type of port. It is aged for about 3 to 5 years. White port. White port is made from white grapes and should be served chilled or cold. It can be used for cocktails. The range of styles of white port are from dry to very sweet. Vintage port. Although it accounts for only about 2% of production, vintage port is the flagship wine of all Portugal. Vintage port is made entirely from the grapes of a declared vintage year. Vintage ports are aged in barrels for a maximum of 2.5 years before bottling. Late bottle vintage port. Late bottle vintage port was originally wine that has been destined for bottling as vintage port, but due to lack of demand was left in the barrel for a rather longer time. So these kind of ports, which are not bottled early, get the name as late bottle vintage port. Reserve port is a premium ruby port approved by Instituto Vinho de Porto. Crusted port may be considered a poor man's vintage port. It is a blend of port wine from several vintage, which is bottled, unfiltered, and sealed with a cork. This kind of port needs to be decanted before drinking. Grafeira. Grafeira is an intermediate vintage dated style of port made from the grapes of a single harvest. Tawny port or porritas. Tawny ports are wines made from red grapes that are aged in wooden barrel. As a result, they gradually mellow to a golden brown color. Tawny, with an indication of age, is a blend of several vintage, with the average years in wood stated on the label, the official categories being 10, 20, 30 and 40 years of age. The cheapest form of tawny port are young wines made from a blend of red and white grapes. Tawny ports from a single vintage are called corritas. Well, that's all for the session, and now this is a quiz time. The link for the quiz is given in the description box below. Kindly attempt the quiz.